talk. So it's on more on. I will take you all along my research journey. So, what is the introduction or how I started my research in 2014 around, and what is the research motivation, my research laboratory, my research collaborations, to whom I have worked with them. Then the major contribution of the research and the conclusions, and then the future opportunities in this field. Yeah. So to start on the introduction, you all know very well that already Dr. Londe has introduced you what is research, how to do, and the meaning of research and everything. But that too, I would say, research or whatever it's a, if it's a PhD scholar or if it's a master students, master scholar. So doing research is an it's an individual experience, so it varies from person to person. So unless and until you experience it by your own, you will not get feel of it. But the overall research is like the careful diligent search. It is like for example, take any topic or any field of research. It is like you are not the first person to start the research into that field, or to start the work into that field. Somebody has already done something, some relevant work or some good work into that field. But that too, you have to identify the flaws in the work, or to identify the gap, as already Dr. Londe has discussed. And this is the overall a short definition of research, if we break the word into re and search. So searching a careful studious inquiry or examination, and then do some experimentations and all these things to support your search, some practical values, statistical analysis, and all these things. And at last, it is nothing but the collection of information about that particular subject or particular topic. So that is the overall in short definition of research. But at last, again, I would like to say, it varies from person to person. So overall, it is nothing but the individual experience of that research. So this is some, in short, overall research method that people follow, or I would say mostly the researchers follow. So first of all, you have to ask some questions to yourself, that why to do this research, or means why this topic. So by doing some literature into it, and then you have to decide the objective, or select the problem statement. What is that objective that I have to work on, or what is the problem statement? And then accordingly, the methodology, how to do that, how to solve that problem. If the problem statement has defined, then how to address that problem, what is the methodology, research methodology. And then after working on the research methodology, at last you will produce or generate some results, and your contributions to it. So this is the overall pipeline of any research method. So about talking about my research journey for the detection of diabetic retinopathy using computer vision or machine learning techniques. Uh, so first of all, you would means you should have the research motivations, means why you are doing uh, the research into the relevant field and all these things. So to be frankly speaking, since my supervisor is Dr. Manish Kokre from HGGS Nanded, who is PhD from IIT Kharagpur and postdoc from UCSB, University of Santa Barbara, California. And at his postdoc, he was working on diabetic retinopathy topic under some of the leading researcher. group. So after I have joined at the COE laboratory, my research lab, and after my guide allocations, so we had one or two discussions. Very recently, he has done his postdoc, and then I got the topic introduction from his side. But then I started digging into it in details, and then found this is the real challenging topic and very hot burning today's topic, which motivates me to do or to continue my research in this field. And these are the leading researchers in this field in diabetic retinopathy, DR. So first of all is the Michael Abramov, who is the MD and PhD from USA, and who is the top leading researcher in this field for diabetic retinopathy. He's the one who got first FDA approval for the DR screening system. Yeah. And then afterwards, Dr. Edward Chom, he's also from USA in the same group, but Dr. Edward Chom has one another company and whose research is in image retrieval side of things, means medical image retrieval, particularly DR image retrieval or information retrieval kind of thing. And then Professor Fabrice Meriodieu from University of Technology Petronas, Malaysia, but he's the full professor in France. So I'm very fortunate, to work on on all these leading researchers uh, in the DR field. So I met Professor Fabrice uh, when I was in a research internship doing in Malaysia, and after then I met another professors. Uh, these are Gonole Kwalak, who is also a very leading researcher in this field, DR, who is also from France. Then Luca Giancado, all these things. So I'm very fortunate. I'm saying that I got a chance to work, with these people, and then we have the collaborative work and publications and all these things. Yeah. So this is the motivations of my research. So after that, the very important thing is the problem statement or the problem definition, or means how to start, means what is the problem that I have to work on it. So that is very important. Why I'm saying this? Because initially, I have started the working on retinal image retrieval system kind of thing, because since my professor, Dr. Manish Kokre, has PhD in image retrieval, so we have started a similar thing, the image retrieval applications, but that too in diabetic retinopathy applications. But after working, around 1 year, it's like many professors has asked me that what is the need of this image retrieval system for identification of diabetic retinopathy. So it is like, if you want to identify diabetic retinopathy, you can directly identify it. There is no need of image retrieval kind of system. So around 1 year I have worked on this, and then as I say, the Edward Chom, who is the leading researcher in this field, particularly retinal image retrieval. So I have contacted to them and asked, okay, this is the problem, and I didn't understand how I can proceed in this field, since many of my supervisors or colleagues are telling that what is exactly the need of retrieval image retrieval system for the detection of diabetic retinopathy. And I got the response from him that, okay, though he is the ophthalmologist and the current researcher in this field, but there is still, for the early screening of diabetic patient, you will there is a need of CBIR, or the content based image retrieval system, so that at the first screening, if the patient is having some previous history or some past diagnosis, then at the screening output you will generate the relevant images, and then you will take a decision. Then yeah, I got a reply from him, and then I have satisfied at that point. But at the last, or at the end of my PhD, again this problem stuck with my research, and I met then my another supervisor, uh, Dr. Henning Mueller, who is the we can say the father of medical image retrieval. So then he cleared my doubts, and then I have changed my research topic at retinal image analysis for the detection of diabetic retinopathy rather than retinal image retrieval system. So this is why I'm saying, first of all, we have to very clear about our problem statement, that what we have to do means what is the problem, and what we are going to address it. Otherwise, it will happen like after 3 to 4 years of research, people are start questioning that this is not actually the problem that you are working on. Yeah. So some glimpse of my research laboratory where we worked on. This is our laboratory center of excellence at signal and image processing at AGGS Nanded, and this is my professor Manish Kokre, uh, the researcher, and this is our this is my desk, and this is our laboratory. So it's a very good environment we got, and that is why we can able to produce some good results or the relevant research. So many times the guests and the faculties are visited to our laboratory and to see our work. Okay, and since we have the equipments, well, very good equipment for the relevant research. So it's like I was working on diabetic retinopathy, so we have the fundus camera here, the Topcon fundus camera in the laboratory. So once in a week, or after scheduling the meeting with doctors, we do the screening of diabetic patients, and then at the end of the research, we have generated the database and then launch the challenge and all these things. I will explain in my later talk. But I'm fortunate enough to got these facilities and all these things. So that is one of the important thing that necessary to carry out the research. So at our laboratory, these are the different areas of research and expertise that all the peoples are working on, mostly in medical image processing or medical signal processing, and apart from that, video surveillance also, and another classical signal processing, all these things. Yeah. Yeah. Also, we have the research collaborations with University Technology Petronas and some of the universities from France. So I got the opportunity, to go there and do the internship and to meet the people, the professors over there, and their style of research, their experiences. So that was the very good experience for me. So this is Professor Henning Mueller, uh, uh, who is the full professor at University of Geneva, actually Switzerland. But he visited at UTP, and we got a chance to work with him. So he's we can say the father of medical image retrieval. So whatever I have doubt about my research topic and all these things, he has cleared, and then I got the real, intuition of the problem statement and all these things. Our research colleagues or the research group at UTP. So I found one difference here. I would like to, share that in foreign universities or in out of India country, the researchers are mostly work in a group, because in a group research the work is progress very fast, and many times it will mostly it happens that in one direction while doing a work you stuck at some point, and once you stuck, you didn't find another direction or another idea or something like that. So you feel that you need to have someone which to whom you can discuss your topic or your problems and all these things. So while working in a group, these things reduces, means though you stuck, but mostly after discussing the topic and your colleague also working on the relevant, means in the same a little bit different topic but in a relevant area, and you got ideas from them and they also got ideas from you, and you share your knowledge and everything. So overall your research journey will fast there, and your research progress will also improve. So that one major difference I feel that mostly in India a researcher is not, means has not following, or mostly it's a lack of these things. So to start with the topic, it is like, for the detection of diabetic retinopathy, first of all we need to understand what is diabetes, and how uh, these things are severe, and why these diabetic retinopathy cases are increased day by day. And since in Asia, after China, India is the second largest country where we are producing uh, the diabetes cases. And after diabetes, after prolonged diabetes, after 8 to 10 years, ultimately that person has to face a diabetic retinopathy. So diabetic retinopathy is a disease of retina, or is a disease of eye, we can say, which leads to blindness eventually, if we neglect that disease. So since India is the capital, the second capital of diabetes, so ultimately based on current infrastructure of eye healthcare and ophthalmologist, this is very serious issue, or the global emergency to control the diabetes and the diabetic retinopathy cases. So these are the figures from International Diabetic Federation (IDF), that too from 2 to 3 years before. Uh, Currently, of course, these are much bigger than this. So it is like, on an average, if you consider, then people who are suffering from eye damage is like more than 93 million people suffer from eye damage, according to the organization also. And but the what we can say, the good thing is 95% of the people can reduce this vision loss uh, if they can take screening program, or if they can go to the doctors at the early stage. So considering the Indian scenario, it is like 70 million diabetes patients are there, and after prolonged diabetes of 8 to 10 years, around 18 million people will got diabetic retinopathy approximately. And considering the ophthalmologist or doctors we have, it's like around 16,000 doctors we have. So this is the infrastructure overall from Indian scenario. So of course these doctors are not enough to treat each and individual uh, diabetic retinopathy patient, or in the people, due to the lack of awareness, they didn't go to the clinic unless and until there is a damage to the eye. So that is the condition. That is why early detection is very important, and the awareness in the society and the management of this screening program and all these things, because these conditions are necessary, or these things are very important as far as the our Indian scenario, because diabetic retinopathy scenario in US or in Europe countries or in the developed countries was different. They have enough ophthalmologists or enough doctors, and they have enough infrastructure to treat them. That is why in our scenario it's a very serious issue. So considering the disease, particularly this diabetic retinopathy, which affects the eye of the diabetic patient, after the prolonged diabetes. So how does the diabetes affect vision? Majorly, uh, after the prolonged diabetes, the patient will comes in one of the disease category like glaucoma, cataract, and retinopathy. So glaucoma particularly is a disease of what we can say optic disc. We can say so. This is optic disc of the retina. So and this is optic cup. We can say so. If the cup to disc ratio is increased, that means if the cup is increased from the optic disc, then that patient is having the glaucoma. And cataract is the, or we can say the moti bindu here in Hindi or Marathi. So which is also the very major eye damaging disease. Cataract is nothing but the cloudiness of the lens. Yeah, here the lens becomes cloudy, looks like that, so that you can see the blur thing. And this is the retinopathy, the last one. So retinopathy is nothing but the damage of the retina is the last layer of the retina, innermost layer of the retina, which is very delicate. And due to the diabetes patient, it increases the blood sugar, and because of that, the oxygen level of the blood vessels reduces, and the blood vessels are weak, and then they burst, and they leak the bloods and lipids, proteins, etc. in on the retina, and then you will got the retinopathy, and you will not able to see clearly. So like this. So I'm particularly here in this my PhD research means I have done the work on diabetic retinopathy. So my major work is on fundus images like here. So as I previously introduced you the glaucoma disease and cataract disease and all these things. So there are several retinal diseases, but I particularly work on diabetic retinopathy. Yeah. So in diabetic retinopathy, these are the major, features, or we can say the pathology that you have to consider. One is microaneurysm, hemorrhages, exudates, so on and so forth. So in the 3D image, you can see here, microaneurysm are the early spots or the early signs of retinopathy. There are these are red in shape. These are small, circular type of structure, and very fine. So early step. And then hemorrhages. Hemorrhages are like the rupture of the blood vessels, and the blood comes on the retina. So the second step is hemorrhage. Then the third lesion is the exudates. We can call these are the lesions, retinal lesions mostly. So and so forth. These are different lesions. Means more than this also, whatever I am presenting here. But mostly for diabetic retinopathy, these are the important lesions that ophthalmologist or any researcher needs to consider. Yeah. And we can see in here in the image in the top right, sorry, in the bottom right, that the normal vision looks like this. Means the person who is normal, who can able to see like this. But the person who got retinopathy, so due to these lesions stuck on the retina, these blurs and lipids and proteins and etc., your retinal layer is damaged, and because of that there is the permanent this black like spots, or any random structure will come on the retina, and your vision looks like this. So if you don't ignore these, means if you don't care about this, then it's a severe irreversible blindness issue. Okay. So since the leading cause of blindness, these are the diseases like cataract, as we have discussed earlier, means the cloudiness of the lens. So the normal patient looks like the this. Suppose this is the middle image. Then the cataract patient look like this due to the cloudiness of the lens, and the glaucoma patient look like this due to the optic disc and cup enlargement. So each and every means disease has their own properties and their own seriousness. So there is one more disease like AMD. So it's the age-related macular degeneration. Mostly occurs the people who are above 50 or 55 age. So due to age, so the person who are having AMD disease looks like this. Means his vision is looks like this, and diabetic retinopathy person vision is like this. So the research, the biggest research motivation in this field is all over the world. People are seriously working on this field, and as I have already told that Dr. Michael Abramoff from USA and his team uh, got the first FDA approval for the DR screening. So IDX is their company, and in 2018 they got the first approval, and then all the world focused onto this serious illness of retina, and then many companies arises like Optai and Iris and everything. So my mentor or my supervisor here is Dr. Manish Kogre from GCS Nanded, who is also a good research publications and citations. But my another collaborative, while working on a collaborative research, my another supervisor is Professor Fabrice from France, who is the leading researcher in this field and who is also a very good research and publications in this field, around 6,000 plus citations. So I can say I'm very fortunate enough to work with these people and to got a guidance point to point. Another is Professor Henning Müller, as I have discussed, who is a professor from University of Geneva, and we can say his research is mostly in medical image retrieval. So you can go and see his research by finding his personal web page and everything. So medical informatics, image retrieval, CBIR, everything. It is like if you are working in medical image retrieval, you can't skip his literature like this. He got around 18,000 plus citations. So it's like the topmost leading researcher in the world. And then another is a very important Golan Okwelak, who is the recent researcher. But if you look at his publications and everything track record, so it's like around he has 25 IEEE transactions or medical image analysis paper. Medical image analysis is the Elsevier journal, which is equivalent to IEEE transactions. So it's like he has total, suppose for example 30 papers, then out of that he has 25 IEEE transactions. So it's a very powerful researcher in this field, particularly working on particularly his research is focused on retinopathy and all these things. He's also has a very good citations and all these things. So mostly if you or if we can find which researcher is is actively working in this field, if you can trace their citations or the research progress, if it's a linear increase, then that means they are the active research. Means these foreign people look like this. Means I got this insight from them itself. Yeah. So to come back with our topic, so diabetes is, as I already told, diabetic retinopathy is a disease that got the people who has diabetes, and diabetes occurs because of the inability of our body to digest the sugar, and because of that the sugar increase in the blood and high blood because of the high blood sugars, which results in changes in veins and arteries, particularly in small capillaries in the body. So in eye is the only organ who can directly visible from our body, or which is the flesh from our body, and which is a delicate, very delicate organ. That is why anything happens, the doctors will check first of all your eyes or your tongue, everything like this. So if you consider the anatomy of the healthy eye and means how it looks like, so retinopathy is the disease mostly where uh, occurs on this retinal layer. So this is the back of the eye, uh, where we called as the retina. So light enters from this lens, from this pupil, and then light focuses on this the retina, and then from the retina this is optic disc, so which captures the some signals from the intensities of the light, and then it communicates to the brain. So this is how we can able to look. And if something happens on the retina, then we are not able to visible, or we are not able to see properly the things. So while working on diabetic retinopathy, these are some of the imaging modality we can say. So I majorly work on color fundus images. This is a color fundus image, we can say. It looks like the reddish fundus image, which is a 3 GB, means 3-channel RGB image. And this is the retinal image where we can see different retinal structures like blood vessels, optic disc. This is the fovea, or the center of the retina. We can able to see here the valley-like structure. So this macular or the fovea region, we can uh, say that it's very important for the central vision or the crystal clear vision. So suppose something damage here in the periphery, in the side of the retina, so that is not that much of harmful, but if something damage in the center, that is very harmful. So that is why there are different structures and different regions in the retina that which needs to consider for the detection of diabetic retinopathy in color fundus image and in another modality. So this is called optical coherence tomography, OCT, we can say. So it's another kind of imaging technique where we can able to see the layers of the retina. So this fovea notch, we can able to see here. This is the fovea, so which is the valley type of structure. But here in this slice, we can able to see only one layer. So optical coherence tomography OCT is the volumetric imaging technique. It will scan your some portion of the retina, so in a volume way, and in that volume there are stack of different slices. There are called A slice, B slice, something like that. And this is one of the slice here. We can able to see different layers of the retina. So there are around, from this region to this region, around 10 layers of the retina are there, mean different layers. Each layer has their own significance, their own depth and own properties and everything. Suppose if something is damaged there, then that layer is damaged. So in OCT, it is helpful to see the retinal lesions below the layer, and that is why this imaging technique is important. Yeah. So I got the opportunity to work on OCT in my internship experience at UTP Malaysia. Yeah. So considering the color fundus imaging, so there are two types of diabetic retinopathy category mostly. One is NPDR and another is PDR. So let's not make it difficult, or we can say one is the early stage and another is the severe stage. So PDR is the severe stage and early stage is the NPDR. So NPDR, in NPDR there are different stages: mild, moderate, and severe. So based on the retinal lesions, that I have already told you, that there are different lesions like microaneurysms. For example, this is the microaneurysms, which is a small red dot like this, and then hemorrhages, somewhat bigger, and then exudates like this, yellowish. So based on the lesions, uh, and based on where they are present and how much lesions are present, these are the different gradings of retinopathy. So if it's a mild or moderate or severe, and after that, in PDR, there is one important lesion, that is the this you can able to see. It's the new blood vessels, or we can say the new vascularization, or that is why doctors are saying that it's a proliferative diabetic retinopathy, PDR. So this structure is the new blood vessels. New blood vessels means these are not the blood vessels of original retina, but due to these different lesions and all these things, retina didn't, got the blood to grow the retina. That is why the retina itself or the brain itself produce the artificial weak blood vessels there. So these are the new blood vessels. These are not the blood vessels of original retina, because we can see these are the blood vessels of original retina, which are dominant, and we can able to see in a bold. But these new blood vessels are very weak, and that is why they again broke, and again this severity increase. So based on the lesions and all these things, this disease is categorized. So we can able to see some of the lesions in a bigger picture, uh, considering the color from this image, like the hemorrhages and microorganisms and hard exudates and all these things. So there are several lesions, and based on the properties of that lesions and all these things, the category or the severity of the retina, doctor has given. In hemorrhage also different type, like blot hemorrhages or uh, dot hemorrhages and all these things. Yeah. So suppose uh, if we don't care about it, and if the lesions start damaging throughout all the retina, then it looks like this. This is the severe case or the last stage of the diabetic retinopathy. And in OCT, optical coherence tomography imaging, we can able to see like this, the image, where the lesions, you know, uh, we can able to see like this below the retinal layers. You can able to see there is a damage of the retinal layer. So this is the continuous retinal layer, and this is the damage. So that is something coming from the retinal layers. Yeah, in OCT it looks like this. So according to the retinal lesions and all these things, there are different gradings. Like for diabetic retinopathy, there are international standard. The grades from 0 to varies from 0 to 4. That means in a 5 category. 0 is the no retinopathy. Then if it's a mild, moderate, severe, then it's a 1, 2, 3 like that. And last is the 4 is the proliferative. It's a grade 4 like this. And in the same way, DME is the disease where we are focused only on macular region. As I previously told you, that macula is responsible for the central vision, and DME is nothing but the same lesions, but that comes only in the macula, not in the periphery. So according to the lesions, DME grading are like this. So I will not go into much details of the pathology and all these things, but these are the challenges that earlier people have developed the techniques which can able to detect the retinal structures like optic base, blood vessels, and so on and so forth, and then they can able to detect the retinal lesions, and after that they can analyze whether that image is related to diabetic retinopathy class or which grade, and so on and so forth. So many methods are published earlier, but the point is uh, there is a gap that people can't able to differentiate between the two grades, because it's even it's for the ophthalmologists it's very different. It's very difficult you know to differentiate between grade 1 or 2 or grade 2 or 3, uh, since there is no means concrete quantifications of the lesions in between grades and all these things. Yeah. So that is why, and to detect the diabetic retinopathy in the early stage, there is a need of screening. So at least it is like a in when the mob of the patients will when we set up the screening program, then it is expected like out of 100, it's like around only 2 to 5 peoples are getting the retinal lesions, or they are come under the retinopathy grade. But you have to screen all the 100. So due to the insufficient ophthalmologist, or we have already not enough infrastructure, so because of that, it is very difficult for the ophthalmologist to check each and every patient. So that is why means our job is to automate this system by developing some algorithm to at least screen at this level, uh, first level, that whether the patient is having some retinal lesion or not, and then if it's having, then it should refer to the ophthalmologist, otherwise not. Yeah. So my contribution towards this, when I was started in 2014 for working on this diabetic retinopathy, then at that time the initial approaches was the same. It's like people has developed the methods for the detection of uh, several retinal structures like optic discs, blood vessels, and etc. So I have started by detecting optic disc and fovea locations, because that is very important by considering the retinal structure. So we have developed one method to detect optic disc location and the fovea location with the help of intensity based image line scanning. Line scanning means we have extracted these intensities from this image. It's like around 19 line, and then we have analyzed this intensity of these lines by signal processing. And it is like if you consider this optic disc, so which is having the unique structure of blood vessels which arises from the optic disc. So because of that, if you consider these line intensities, so there is an high difference of the maximum intensity and the lowest intensity because of the bright properties of the optic disc and because of these blood vessels. So our job is to identify this maximum intensity peak and valley pattern from the optic disc, and we successfully identify this by using signal processing, using spatial domain analysis, transform domain analysis, by applying violet and all these things that day. And after that, after identifying the optic disc, because the if you consider the retinal structure, after identifying the optic disc in a similar region, there is the there is a macular region, and at the center of the macula there is a fovea. So fovea is also one important structure uh, that ophthalmologists identify, because once you identify the fovea, then we can analyze this macular region, and this macular region is responsible for the DME disease, diabetic macular edema. So that is why there is the importance of identify these retinal structures. So in our method, after identifying the optic dislocation, we search in this same scanning line the valley positions where the probable fovea locations is there, and we got accurately the optic disc and fovea and all these things, and we have presented this work in one of the paper in elsewhere, and we got around good results and all these things. So this is my initial day of work where I have started working of detection of diabetic retinopathy. But to start with, to detect first of all the important retinal structures like optic disc and fovea and blood vessels and so on and so forth. So the next is, after detection of optic disc and blood vessels, I move towards the after detection of the optic disc and fovea, I move towards the blood vessel part. So where in this blood vessel part, we have proposed two-step approach. One is the pre-processing of the retinal image, and then we have utilize one phase stretch transform in the transform domain to detect the blood vessels in the retina. So these are the some outputs, like the original retinal image looks like this, but after enhancing, means after applying this filter, we can able to see this is the smoother version of the image, and after taking the difference of these two, we will get the different or the difference or the detailed image like this. And if I add these details to the original image, I will able to get this enhanced image. So compared with this previously image, this is the enhanced version of the fundus image, where we can able to highlight blood vessels and the optic disc and everything in a detailed way. So these are some pre-processing techniques of the retina. There are several, but we have proposed some of them. And after this pre-processing, we have detected the blood vessels, which is also the the major important retinal structure. So these are some results of the blood vessel detection and all these things. So we have published this paper in one of the conference. Yeah. So after this, the next portion is after detecting the retinal structures like optic disc, vessels, and fovea. So it is like it is the best practice that time people has follow that detect these structures, and then what we can say, subtract these structures from the retinal image. So after detecting and subtracting this retinal structure, the remaining is the retinal lesions only, so that you can able to detect the retinal lesions accurately, and then you can quantify that lesions and best grade whether it's a grade 1 retinopathy or 2 or so and so forth, severe retinopathy, like that. So these are the steps towards the detection of diabetic retinopathy. So our third contribution was the lesion detection. So where we have use one rank transform, which is the very useful. By applying a single local rank transform here, we can able to generate two images. One is the positive image, one is the negative image. But in these two images, we can able to highlight both types of retinal lesions. In retinal lesions, there are two types of lesions are mostly people considered. One is the bright lesions. For example, these exudates are the bright lesions, and one is the dark lesion. For example, these hemorrhages or microorganisms. So researcher consider this as a dark lesions based on the intensity or the properties of the lesions. So we have developed one method where in a single transform we can able to detect that bright lesions and dark lesions separately. So these are some outputs, or I will not go much into details of the technicality, but you can be able to see in a single image, we can able to see the bright lesions, the exudates, and the dark lesions, and we can able to separate it out and then detect accurately. Yeah. So here I can able to show you that the importance of retinal structure detection after detection the optic disc and blood vessels. Like for example, in this image I have detected optic disc. In the second images I have detected blood vessels, and this is the image of lesion detection. So but I am not interested in these blood vessels and optic disc portion. So after subtracting this portion that I have already detected, the final image, the lesion detection, we got this. So these are the lesions that are important, or after quantifying these lesions, we can able to comment on the retinopathy grades and all these things. So that is why these steps are very important, and mostly people follow that. And after going through the literature, we have followed that. So some of the results for actually detections and all these things, and we have published this in some of the conferences like ICIP and ICIS at Malaysia. So after moving forward, I have started my work by using the traditional approaches, then slightly moves towards the machine learning approach. In machine learning, people mostly interested by automatic feature extraction based on the retinal properties and based on the feature, they cluster the features, and based on that they took a decision whether the image is having that features and all these things. So one contributions we have done in image retrieval point of view, so where we have used this technique. So with the help of surf features, we can able to retrieve the images where the image is having relevant retinopathy or not. And then at the last toward the end of my PhD, it's like around 2017, 18, I have started working on deep learning, advanced, machine learning techniques for the image level detection of diabetic retinopathy, where we have used, several deep learning architectures, for example, VGG, Inception, ResNet, and like that. And then we we use the transfer learning, fine tuning, and then feature extraction with the help of this architecture on these retinal images. And at the last, we use classifier for classify the image, the input image is having retinopathy or diabetic macular edema or the normal cases like this. So recently, these methods are very famous and got significant improved accuracies. So we have developed some of the algorithms to pre-process the image, to crop the central macular part, and to enhance the retinal image using some pre-processing techniques, and then use that pre-processing patches to the network. And in the network, it's a end-to-end learning or end-to-end training with the help of this deep learning network. For example, which is 16 for that particular grades. Suppose the retinopathy is having suppose for example 0, 1, 2, 3 up to 4 grade, so it's like 5 classes. Then for that 5 classes I have trained this network, and then after that once we get the input image, the network is test on that image and we will get the relevant grade. So we have used different networks and the ensemble of these different networks. These are the training, testing, curve, and all these things. I will not go into much details, but we got significant accuracies or significant results while working on these DR and DMA grading and all these things. So we have published this in one of the Elsevier journal. And after that, I have come across for the segmentation of the blood vessels, one of the famous unit architecture, where we have, with the help of that, we have segment the blood vessels also. So now moving towards, after working on the color fundus image, I have started working on optical coherence tomography in my internship at UTP Malaysia, where we have, developed different algorithm to classify particularly DME-DC, diabetic macular edema, with the help of this OCT imaging. And we got significant good results, and we have published these articles in good conferences like EMBC and ICAP. Yeah. So, but this is my work with my other collaborations, where we all work together and publish these results on particularly macular diabetic macular edema side using optical coherence tomography images. So these are the optical coherence tomography images. Yeah. So as I previously told, it's the volumetric images. In one volume, we have to take the different slices, and then we apply the deep learning network or the architecture to classify whether that slice is belongs to the normal category or the DME category, like this. Yeah. So these are the last portion of my research where we worked on this, and we got good results, and we have published good in a good conferences or in journal. But mostly this is my collaborative research, and I it's like that is why it happens very in a progressive way or very fast. So mostly it treats like there is a problem, and to solve that problem people comes all over the world and solve the problem. So some of my co-authors is like Oscar is working from University of Columbia, and Genevieve from UTP Malaysia, my supervisor Professor Henning Müller from Switzerland, Fabrice from France, like this. So this is a very good experience, and that is why I can able to make so many contributions in a fast way. So at the last of my research, I would like to say during these 2 to 3 years of journey, since we have the fundus camera, so we got or we have collected the database by screening several patients or several since we have associated the doctors, and we have collaboration with government medical hospital from Nanded and some private hospitals also. And then at the end in 2018, actually we organized the competitions and launched this data set at the international platform. So we have organized this competition called Diabetic Retinopathy Segmentation and Grading Challenge, IDRID Challenge, and in association with or in collaboration with our partners like UTP Malaysia, University of Burgundy, France, and so on and so forth. So these are our organizing team. So my co-researcher, me with my colleague Prasanna Samiksha and my supervisor Manish Kokre. So our team is from HGS Nanded, and we have associated 2 ophthalmologists dedicatedly, because in medical imaging, it is very tough to work individual, because unless and until the validation from doctors, you can't able to take a decision. So that is why there is always the feedback. You should have the feedback from doctors, and that is why these 2 doctors are we have associated, and it's very thankful to them. Yeah. So and the other researchers like my supervisor Fabrice and Kolak and all these things. So we collectively organize this challenge, and in this challenge we have 516 images that we have screened with the help of that camera, and we took the competition for this different uh, task. So this is the challenge website, the time, and all these things. These are the different tasks. So one is the retinal lesion segmentation, as we have already discussed. Then another is retinal grading, and one is the optic disc and fovea detection, like this. So this is our image where we have told people that we made annotations with the help of some tool, and we have provided these annotations, the ground truth of these lesions and all these things to people, and we ask people that okay, now train your algorithm on these images, and that after training set we have provided the test set at the time of the challenge. So on the training set, once your model is ready, so suppose for example in 1 month, so at the time of testing we have provided some images, and then we ask people to test their model and see their performance and all these things, and we have given the the prize and all these things to the top performing team. So this is the challenge, the top performing team, where I think, yeah, the challenge was won by one of the team from South Korea, Jamin Sun. and these are the participants from all over the world. These are their performance metrics, and this is the distribution of the data and all these things. These data, by the way, is publicly available by the name of IDRID on IEEE data port. So you can go and download and work on this data. So we went at the time of testing to Washington, and we took live ISBI testing, and people have participated there, and they run. We have given 1 hour time to run their algorithm, and at the final, we got the final rank of the uh, winning team. So there are different subtasks and all these things. So these are the final, winners of that particular subtask. So the overall challenge went on one day at ISBI platform, where we got, around 60 to 70, 60 to 65, I think, participants from all over the world, and it was very nice experience. Yeah. So as I say, after this challenge and all these things, these are my some of the experience from my internship, where I worked on one of the workstation at UTB Malaysia, and we have the research colleagues. We collaboratively work, and side by side along with the research, there are lots of it is like food to eat, and different experience Malaysian food and all these things. So it is like, unless and until you didn't enjoy your research journey, you will not get the fruitful outcome out of it. Otherwise, it is like, if you're stuck at some point, then it's very frustrating. And if you, suppose for example, if you're stuck at some problem and if you're not able to get out of it, uh, then at some point you start feeling that you have to lose the momentum and all these things. But these things are very important, you know to continuously work on it. And currently also I am working on this. It is like, after finishing my PhD, I have joined this company Arametrics, where initially we have worked on histopathological images. Hey, okay. So it's like we have a company working in healthcare, and which is a research unit of Sun Pharmaceutical. And recently we have started working in clinical domain. Previously we were working on preclinical domain, histopathological domain. So recently, I'm a leader of ophthalmology team. So because of my past PhD experience of working retinal image analysis, currently also we are participating in challenges and worked on it. So currently we have worked on, apart from retinopathy, different diseases like AMD and so on and so forth. So this is one of the participations in the challenge, where we got first prize for the one of the algorithm, and continuously we were working and all these things. So I would say there are so many opportunities in this field for the detection of diabetic retinopathy or the relevant retinal related diseases, since Google has worked on it, and they have published several good publications, like for example in JAMA. And then people come to know the seriousness and the importance of the disease or the severity. And there are so many opportunities now. People are working not only to detect diabetic retinopathy, but with the help of color fundus image. Means their interest is to detect whether the person is means it's a female or male. It's a, what is the gender of that person, whether it's alcoholic or whether it's a smoking habit and all these things. What is the BMI of that person? Means there are several other parameters that initially people doesn't consider. So there are so many dimensions that people are working now. So currently there are so many portable fundus cameras where people are easily can take a capture a photo and then worked on is. It's a very handy, can uh, port to the mobile and so on and so forth. So of course there is a future, there is a lot of future scope. One is the teleophthalmology. Teleophthalmology means it is like ophthalmologist or the doctors not able to go, to the remote areas like villages and all these things. So there is a system where you can only take a photo and then you can send the photo to the doctors where the doctors are located in the urban areas or in the metro city, and then you can refer the decision from the doctors to the local, your operator. So this is also one of the future challenging area. So many researchers are interested to provide end-to-end solutions for the early detection of diabetic disease. So there are some ideas like from capturing the image to the process, then automatic generation of the disease and the diagnosis report, everything. So these are some future dimensions. Already people has adopted some of the algorithm. For example, here one of the research lab from Singapore, they have adopted a deep learning system for DR screening like this. And recently people are interested in federated learning. So what is this federated learning means? It is like mostly the hospital provide the data, and in our research lab or the researcher, it's like every time we can't go to the hospitals or due to some privacy policy, hospital can't share the data. So it is like we have to create one workflow here where we can share some privacy issue, some legal concern to the hospitals, and the data is there at the hospital itself on the server. So we can fetch the data and we can train the data, or we can train the model on the hospital itself, and then we can communicate that model with the main server and we can take a decision. So by doing so, people are work across the globe. Suppose for example, one is sitting in the India, one is sitting in the US, one is in the Europe and everything. So they can communicate the data and they can build the model collectively utilizing all the data. So recently this is the field where people are interested, called federated learning. And some of the future scopes, like in multimodality, people are interested not only diabetic retinopathy, but another modality like angiography or OCT angiography like this. Some of the Indian companies, I would like to say that they are interested to work in, or they have already working on this, like Remedio and Forocell, for example, and some of the biggest eye hospitals like LV Prasad, Arvind hospitals. We have already collaborations with them. So these are the top international companies. Also, they are working in this. Means recently, since many big companies are coming into this, eye healthcare or the retinopathy or eye-related disease problems. So there are so many opportunities to work with them. These are my references, some of the talk, but it's okay. Some of the publications, but you can go and visit my scholar profile, and you can able to see different publications where we have published one data set, IDRID called, and some of my co-authors where we have worked, Professor Fabris and Henning Mueller, and some another from University of Columbia and all these things. So this is the overall talk. I would say thank you to all my co-authors and all my professors, mentors who have guided me to work on this topic to complete my research work. And if you have any doubts, or if somebody wants to work in this field, you can contact me. This is my email ID, my GitHub repo, and everything. Yeah. So if anybody has any questions or anything, they can ask, or otherwise maybe I have to show one demo to you where we can process the retinal image in the Google Colab itself, and so in future if you want to work, then you can able to work on it. Yeah. So before that, means if anybody has any questions, they can ask. Otherwise, I will continue.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Sir, good afternoon.
Hello, sir.
Sir,
Good afternoon.
sir, can I know what is that? Which software you have been using for this training and testing? Is it on Python or MATLAB or integration of both?
Uh, uh, Currently it is on Python, but it is like my early, start of my research. I have developed some of the algorithm in MATLAB, like
Okay.
my initial contribution of optic disc detection and blood vessel detection. But currently, the deep learning and machine learning things are very much famous in Python because Python is open source. So yeah, I have mostly developed the current algorithm in Python itself using the Keras and TensorFlow libraries, deep learning libraries. Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So if you want, I mean, I can uh, share some of the demo uh, where we can able to see how to work on it. So let me join from my system. Okay. शेयर करेगा. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen, to show you the demo for, it's like, for example, the online demo for the retinal image processing. So first of all, means I will let you know that since these things are, for deep learning and machine learning, you need a graphical processing unit or GPU, we can say, for the high computations. So it's like you can't use your own laptop or your normal system to work on it. But there are some publicly available free resources, for example, the Google Colab, where you can, training this algorithm, or where you can utilize the Google Cloud GPUs for your algorithm to train and test. But it is like mostly people don't know that, so we can't use that facility, or we can't avail that facility. But today I will share a small demo to how to use on Google Colab and all these things. So first of all, you have to go to the drive, and if it's like already the Colab is installed here. Otherwise, you have to go to the app, and you have to install the Google Colab. There is a Colab app here. You have to just search here Google Colab, and then it will come. So this is, suppose for example, my retinal image demo. Then I have to open this file in a Google Colaboratory. So Google Colaboratory is the facility of Google, where Google can provide you the GPU, or you can, if you type Colaboratory here, and you can if you want to see what is that, then you can able to explore it. So it is like my previous. So what is Colaboratory? It's a Google Colab in short, which inbuilt has the Python in the browser, and which gives you the free access of GPUs, and it is easy for sharing and all these things. So only you have to connect with the help of your drive. So for that only you need to have the Gmail only. So for example, here I will show you that my demo of pre-processing of retinal image. For example, I have the image like this. This image IDRID 66.jpg image, for example, in one of my folder. Okay, suppose for example this is my image, and in retinopathy, for pre-processing we use some of the algorithm. For example, Gaussian blur subtraction, one of the technique where we can able to highlight the retinal lesions more dominantly. So for example, I have to use that algorithm. Then so this is the image, and for example I have to use that. In this repo there are only these two images are there, not another. So we will delete the rest of them. So that I will show you the output with the help of these two images. They have means how the output are generated here itself in this folder, and how it looks like. So first of all, in this Google Colaboratory, once you install this Google Colaboratory, you can search or you can explore the options here in the file edit, how it works and everything, how to open the new notebook and all these things. Suppose for example I can open a new notebook, then it will create for me a new Jupyter notebook. Jupyter notebook, in a sense, it is like by default it will give you the Python installation here itself, and this is Jupyter notebook, means this is the one cell. Here we can type any Python code. So here I have created one. So before that, as I already told, for your training and testing machine learning or deep learning algorithm, you have to install the GPU card on your system. So in the Colaboratory, there is the by default GPU is available. You can click on this runtime, manage the session. Sorry, not the session. Click on this runtime and change the runtime type. So here the hardware accelerator, you can able to see there is the availability of GPU and TPU. So you have to select the GPU and you have to save it. So after that, they will allocate you one GPU card in the Google virtual system, and then we have to connect your this Colaboratory to the GPU. Now currently it is connecting. You can able to see it. It is initializing, and then it will allocate one of the GPU from the Google Cloud to you. And after initializing, it will show this is the RAM and this is the disk size. So they will allocate you the 12 GB GPU card, and having this much of ROM disk size on this. So now you can able to run this code on this 12 GB GPU card. So for this, there are some Python basic libraries. I have to import that libraries. So after clicking on this run button, the code will run. And before that, you have to mount your this collaboratory with your Google Drive. Since in your Google Drive you can upload your data and all these things here itself, the files, and then that data you can fetch by mounting the Google Drive to the collaboratory. So here my drive comes, and then my data comes here. Suppose for example, here my images are stored in this collaboratory notebook. This IDRA is 66 and 79. From here you can able to see here 66 and 79. These are the same images where means it's stored in this collab notebook folder. So you can access these images from here itself. So you can know now you can check the path of that image, and you can copy paste the path here. So the data path here. Suppose for example the collab notebook data path here, and the image save path, because we are going to pre-process these two images, and we are going to save the output here itself. So we run this data path and save path. Now this is the Python function for the Gaussian blur subtraction. So it will utilize the OpenCV2 library in which the Gaussian blur function is there. So it will pass our image and then apply the Gaussian filter and then subtract the Gaussian filter output from the original image. So this Python function we have to run, and now this is the command for sorting out the images from this data path and collecting the images. So after running this command, you can able to see there are maybe two files which comes in this file names. Since we have given only the JPEG extension, and we know only two images are there which are having JPEG extensions, so it will automatically gather these two files in this file name. So if you want to check if the two files comes under this or not, then you can just type this variable file name, and you can see the output of that. You can able to see the two file names. One is IDRAD 66.jpg, the complete file name, and the another is IDRAD 79.jpg. So with the help of this, we can able to get that. And now this is the we are using the for loop. For example, we read the image from first image from these file names, and then we read the image and we use this subtract Gaussian blur function to pre-process the image, and then we are saving the image with the help of that CV2 IMWrite function on this save path. The save path is the same where we have given the save path the folder location of this collab notebook. Yeah. So we hope the output image should comes under here folder. So, and we will use, for example, the new underscore new name to differentiate between the original image and the new process image. So once we run this, it will both the image, it will load, it will process, and it will save the first image and the second image. And once complete, it will stop. So this is the beauty of the Google Collaboratory, where we can get the workspace of Python with inbuilt libraries like TensorFlow and Keras and everything. And once connected, this will run up to 12 hours. So this is the only restriction that after 12 hours it will restart. But at least for 12 hours you can use it, or we can utilize it for our purpose. So after running this, as we expected, it should created these two images with the help of this underscore new name in this repo. So here we can see this IDRAD 79 and IDRAD 69 underscore new. These two images is just created at 2 p.m. We can able to see here the time. And if we see these two images like this, so these are the pre-processed images of the retina. They're mostly one of the pre-processing technique like Gaussian blur subtraction we have used, which can able to locate the mostly the retinal lesions, which can able to highlight the retinal lesions like this. In the same way, the second image. So just I'm showing you a small demo of how to use Google Colab and how to process retinal images and all these things. Suppose for example I have to enhance the retinal image intensity. So currently the image looks like this, and in my presentation I have shown you one of the intensity enhancement algorithm like Clahe contrast limited adaptive histogram equalization algorithm. Suppose we have to use that. So this is the function that how Clahe works. If you can go and check in the Google, it will give you the papers and every details. So for time being right now, suppose I have to run this, and again in the same way, we are reading the images and we are using this Clahe single function to pre-process the image using Clahe contrast limited adaptive histogram equalization algorithm, and we are saving the images on the same path with the help of this CV2IMWrite function by giving the name underscore Clahe. So currently it is like there are two images, original.jpg images, two new images, and now it is expected to come two new images of the client with the help of this. So for example, yeah, this will come. So now you can able to see just at 2 p.m. after 2 p.m. 3 minutes, the images means at this time the images are created, and these are the enhanced version of the previous images. So by side, if you look the two images, you can able to see this is the enhanced version. So it's one of the algorithm of the retina where you will get this is the original image and 79, and this is the enhanced image you can able to see. So in this way, there are so many techniques. It's like right now I'm not able to show you my whole training and testing algorithm because it will take a time, but at least I can show you the small glimpse of how to use this Google Colaboratory and how to pre-process the retinal images and how to train and test. So just it is like, for example, if you type here in this Google TensorFlow tutorials, then the TensorFlow tutorials site will open, and in this you can, because the Google Colaboratory is the research collaboratory or the research version of, or what we can say, the research tool of the TensorFlow, and TensorFlow is the deep learning library created by Google. So TensorFlow is a very good deep learning library. Mostly in industry people are using TensorFlow, and in their initial research, in their in-house research, they have created this tool Google Colaboratory. But now they have opened this research tool to the research community, so that other people can train their deep learning algorithm and test their deep learning algorithm on their particular data. So you can explore different examples with these TensorFlow tutorials. For example, machine learning basics with Keras and all these things, imaging techniques, for example, for these images, image classification networks, convolutional networks. There are so many. So after clicking here, by default there is a tab will open, run this in Colab. Then it will automatically connect to my Gmail ID or my Gmail Colab, and then there it will now it has already connected to my Google account. And then you can just connect your notebook to the one of the GPU. So already we have one of the notebook connected, so we have to manage the sessions by terminating the previous session, because at a time you can able to connect only one session. And now suppose this is the another session you want to connect, so now they will allocate one of the virtual system here. And now here it very beautifully they have explained what is image classification, the data and everything. Now after connecting and allocating the RAM and the ROM GPU here, you can just plug and play. It's very simple. But before that, you should know what is these libraries, what is Matplotlib, TensorFlow, and etc. So you can go and see, in the TensorFlow deep learning library, the documentation of all these things. But now you can download the data and extract the data here itself in a very fast way. It will download and then print the images and everything. So these things mostly people don't know because it's of open source, but it is like mostly people don't know. So at least you can work on this. This is one of the image from the data set, and they can translate the image and work on this and everything like this. So I will not explain each and everything, because you can do with your own, but I will show you one of the tab. Like in this way the model is reading the data, processing the data with the help of these libraries, the training data, this is training data, validation data, and then visualize the data, and then training the network, configure the network, and create the model. So this is the deep learning model. Currently it is very famous. This is one of the models. There are so many models. I have already discussed some of them in my talk, like VGD60, ResNet 50 for classification. So based on the task, there are different models. So compile the model, train the model, everything, visualize the weights, results, everything. So this is very useful, and people are working on this. So you can maybe start working on this. Yeah. So by saying all this thing, I think I can stop here. Means already we have running on a little bit late. So let me know if you have any questions or something. Otherwise, I will stop here. Yeah. Yeah, some of the comments are how to test the algorithm on hardware. So hardware means you want to say if you have some dedicated other hardware, then that is the porting thing, the last step of the algorithm. But it depends by application to application. It varies. The requirement of the hardware and the libraries and all these things. But here, at least on Google Colab, you can directly train and test and visualize the results itself. The weights are load, means you can save the model here itself, and the model then save the Google notebook or in the your hard drive, Gmail, and then you can download the model from here, and you can test on your respective hardware. So if you have any doubts, if you have any questions, you can ask me or you can contact me. Uh, this is my email ID, and in the uh, relevant field, like for example, detection of retinal diseases, several, you can go and see my GitHub repo, where mostly uh, most of my algorithm are there itself, and the Google Collaborative algorithm are also there. So you can visit and you can download the algorithms, and these are my the repositories where I have worked on retinal images, uh, and apart from that, so many other things. But at least retinal images, I can able to show you some of the repositories. So if you know this, this is the GitHub platform. It's very good to work in a collaboration, so that once you have created a repository, you can access it through your colleague. Means suppose 3 to 4 person are working at the same time on the same project. So it is like all the codes are saved in this repository, and anybody can comment on this code. Means whatever the person that you have provided the access to them. So it is like if somebody has created some functions or some update, somebody has some update in some of the script, then ultimately it will reflect here. So by doing so, it is very easy to maintain the uh, latest version of the code and all these things. So for example, here in DR image analysis, you can open and you can see my earlier work, some of the diabetic retinopathy work or something like that. So there are so many. You can go and check, and for example, here in DR image analysis, where we have created a classification network for diabetic retinopathy. So everything is there, the class distribution and all these things. The code, just you have to go select and plug and play, and then you have to modify according to your own applications or purpose. So this is the training folder path, and everything is there, and the images, retinal images, and the pre-processing and the training and the testing I have done. For example, there are 840 images of 256 by 256 size, and all these things like this. And this is the network, the training and testing and everything. So this is just one example I'm showing you. So you can go and visit in this GitHub profile of mine, and if somebody is interested to work in this field, you can work on it. So if anybody has any question or in doubt, you can ask, or otherwise maybe you will We'll stop here. Okay, somebody is asking the best segmentation algorithm in my experience, if I'm not wrong.